Hello everybody, it's Natalie Gray here, Head of Partnerships at Codurance, and I'm with my colleague Rob Gray, Head of Sales at Codurance. Hello Rob.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, yeah, good, thanks. It's episode 9 now of our Beyond the Cloud series, where we're talking about the business challenges and impact of working in the cloud. Today, it's really, I guess, interesting to talk about, what happens on D-Day when that big red button is pressed and everything goes into the cloud. It kind of almost feels like when we went from 1999 to 2000, the planes didn't actually fall out of the sky. Everything was actually fine. And it was all a bit of a damp squib. And it was really, the world continued to turn. So is it kind of the same with migration, or is it really some big scary thing that everybody has to be on standby? Nobody's allowed to take holiday because you're going to do your migration? It'd be really interesting to talk about, your experiences with customers and what the reality looks like.
I want to answer it in 2 ways. Number one, I want to say it's a massive anticlimax. Nothing happens. It is very much business as usual.
Yeah.
But that then is caveated by our last conversation around that assess and around the planning, not just of the workloads and the infrastructure that you're moving, or again, we spoke about that kind of iterative approach to migrating, not just a big bang where you just bulk upload, let's say, everything into the cloud, because that probably would stop a few wheels from turning and cause a few concerns. But then also the people alignment, the alignment between the business, etc. If you've gone through that assess phase and you have that really kind of concrete strategy and alignment across the business of this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, this is how we're going to do it, that day of, let's say, that D-Day, so when you do start migrating, it's not that big of an event, to be honest. And in the last episode, we spoke about finding a piece of your infrastructure, so something that isn't business critical. There's a less resistance to your business running, but there's still importance of moving it into the cloud, whether that's the first stage of that kind of iterative move into the cloud, or whether it's running it as more of a pilot or a POC. So if there are still some uncertainties around the target cloud environment, or again, the internal people that you have, their own skill sets or experiences, there's a lot of organizations we've spoke to where they've consulted with an organization like Codurance to validate the plans, almost as reassurance of what they want to do, but they want to give their people the opportunity to trial it and to do it themselves, and to kind of empower this first adoption of the cloud through their own people. And that's absolutely fine. But if that will always bring a little bit of uncertainty for some individuals. So whether you take a workload as a proof of concept and you slowly start moving that across, if it's well planned, it should go as planned. And again, you follow that kind of through that assess phase. It's very well thought out in terms of the target architecture, the technologies, the processes, the way that you want to actually adopt the cloud. Once you've gone through that process, I think a lot of organizations then realize that it wasn't that hard. It's, if anything, it's just the time constraint of then going through that process multiple times. But I think organizations then start to see the benefit of doing it, and it's after that migration stage then, which is generally just the whether you do it in a more of an automated process or manual process, it's just time that is the thing within this then.
It also helps businesses to continue to build new products, do new things, be innovative, like just kind of carry on with their business as usual, knowing that the migration isn't going to be this massive project that's going to take months and months and months and months and cause everything to stop until the migration has been completed. It sounds like it's much better to have that kind of iterative approach to things, that's sort of small and incremental, and do it gradually rather than just pin it all onto one particular day or week.
Whether it's a product-based organization or services, depending on what you have and the type of customer you have, B2B, B2C, etc. I think there's always going to be different swim lanes of activity that's happening within an organization, whether that's general BAU of the support, whether it's feature development, and that ties then into kind of customer feedback that you've had and you're adopting your service to be more responsive or kind of tailored to how your customers are wanting to use your platform. And then you've got that kind of what you want to do internally to the infrastructure and to the environment, which is a lot of times why there is a move to the cloud, because whilst there will be benefits for the customer with an application or a service being hosted in the cloud, it's mainly to do with the company itself. So it's mainly to, let's say Codurance. If we had a SaaS, I know we can do that. If we had a SaaS product, there wouldn't be as much benefit for our customers if we were hosting it ourselves on premise, whether we're in private cloud, whether we're in public cloud. The way that they use our application would be the same, if not very similar. But for us as an organization, being in those different environments, things like cost optimization and observability of our application and the usage of it, and mainly security as well, is a lot more visible and easy to manage and easy to support with it being in the cloud, as opposed to being on premise and supported by us and by a group of employed people as well, by Codurance. So I think a lot of it is understanding, and you can go through that in the assess phase as well, is understanding what needs to happen within your business consistently throughout this, as well as or let's say in parallel to a migration, what other things are important for your business to continue ticking along and to move forwards. Let's say, migrations don't typically take that long. We've worked with a lot of organizations and it's been a couple of weeks that their infrastructure has moved. We've worked with some larger organizations where it's a matter of a few months where we've been able to move entire workloads and environments from on-premise private into the cloud or wherever it might be going. But I think understanding as well that roadmap for the organization of what's going to happen in these few months. Is there a massive product launch that's going to happen bang in the middle of a migration? Being aware of that so you can predict any friction, or you can predict resource internally that may be needed elsewhere, is something that needs to be taken account of. And that is why having a smaller, iterative kind of bite-sized and manageable approach to a migration is favored, as opposed to that large, let's just move everything, let's create as much noise and as much friction and create as much uncertainty within the business as possible. Never is normally a good idea.
True, that does sound wrong. So yeah, that's great. And I think kind of leads us well into our next episode, where we're going to be talking about kind of the optimize phase. So I think you touched on sort of monitoring and observability, being able to kind of have a much better handle on where your consumption is and optimizing your different workloads, etc. So we'll dig into that on the next episode. But yeah, I think the key takeaway from today is as long as you plan it well and you don't do everything all in one go, a big bang as you say, then the migration part should actually be fairly stress-free. So yeah, great chatting as always. And if anyone wants to catch up with us, we're at Codurance on our social channels, or reach us at hello@codurance.com. But until next time, Rob, have a great day.
You too. Thank you.